Hello and welcome to Halcyon Blink. My name's Lorne Bryce and I'm going to be your host of this episode. And strap yourselves in, motherfuckers. We're going to hit a trip down nostalgia road. The year is 1993. I'm 3 years old. I'm watching a television and all of a sudden I see these colourful figures walking towards me with everything exploding behind them. It's the Power Rangers. What do I want to talk about Power Rangers? Well, I did a Power Rangers movie preview not too long ago. Didn't get around to watching the movie that I previewed, which is kind of silly as a YouTuber.
That boy is good. Good and terrible.
Nevertheless, I didn't really talk a tremendous amount about the original series, more about what it represented and what I hoped that the film would mirror from the series. And from what I hear, no, it didn't.
I no longer have any connection to this world. I'm gonna go home and kill myself. Goodbye, friends.
Nevertheless, we have the original Power Rangers still, as embarrassing as it is, albeit glorious in other respects. It follows the adventures of 5 teenagers with attitude, and the adventures of Zordon and Alpha on their quest to defeat the evil Rita Repulsa, a witch who was trapped on the moon. Odd, I know, as a premise, but when you consider that this was originally a Japanese show, that the live action scenes were sold to the American studio who then filmed other shit over it, you can kind of see how they've had to maybe cobble together a story that makes somewhat more sense than just evil person grows things and monsters have to fight the big bad robot thing. Why did I love Power Rangers? What wasn't to love? The badass theme song is the thing that kicks things off. It gets you hyped from the get-go. The guitar solo. In fact, I played this song for a friend of mine at work who I knew liked Power Rangers back in the day, but he didn't recognize the initial intro because he recognized it as heavy metal. That's how, oh yeah, it gets you pumped. And then it leads into your traditional, wow, it's really crazy. We've gone to this karate tournament and there's this weird guy hanging out in the corner. I wonder if he's evil. We won't deal with that right now. We'll wait for him to get disproportionately powerful compared to the 5 of us, and then we'll have to take him down with our Megazord, because that's not how our fights ended the last 372 times.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
What I would say about the series as well is that the repetition, because it's a kids series, it does get slightly repetitive after the first 2 episodes. The students, you've got Jason, you've got Zach, you've got Trini, you've got Kimberly, and you've got Billy. I did get it right. Side note, I'm adding this into the review. I guessed the 5 names of the Power Rangers, and 28 years old, still got it right. You've got Jason, you've got Trini, you've got Billy, you've got Zach, you've got Kimberly. I got it right the first time and I questioned myself. I'm such a dork. Anyway, these 5 teenagers are picked by an intergalactic warrior called Zordon, who's encased in a tube of lube for some reason, and his robot, well, we'll just call him servant. You know, there's nothing wrong with eternal servitude. Anyway, point being is he's chosen them as his guardians, the people he will imbue with the powers of the Morphin grid. Quick side note, this was banned in Taiwan and Indonesia because they took the word morphin as a literal verb. He thought that it was a television, I should say, thought it was a television series where teenagers would literally morph up, and they would have hallucinations about becoming these multicolored superheroes. So they didn't really get the memo about the fact that it's Japan and they sometimes do this kind of stuff in order to entertain the masses. Not a knock on them, it's the reason why I'm a fan.
Dear God, it's beautiful.
These teenagers then have to battle the monsters of Rita Repulsa, which every single week would throw out sometimes a themed evil do-gooder. At one point I seem to remember that she had a pumpkin-themed person, and the big bad thing is that they had pumpkins. on their head.
It's just a bunch of pumpkins.
No, Zach. They are Rita's evil doings. These pumpkins can attach themselves to your head, making it impossible for you to see or breathe.
12 seconds later.
When the biggest of them ripens, it will turn into Rita's newest creation, Pumpkin Rapper.
Zordon, what can this monster do?
He will try to distract you with his clever raps and rhymes.
Now, again, far be it from me to poke holes in the logic of a children's action series, but the last I checked, swords and karate seem to surpass pumpkins. Pumpkins were not renowned for their particularly high level of density or integrity. That's why we don't coat our tanks in them. Albeit these monsters can be quite ridiculous at times, some of them were quite, frankly, terrifying. One of the main ones, Goldar, I remember being scared of for the longest time because he has these weird things that hang down by his leg that I thought were dreadlocks for the longest time, but they look like spiders' legs for hair. How could you not be terrified of that? But let's move on to some of the television series' good things. I don't want to spend it poking holes in its logic and making fun of its premise. Oh wait, let's continue to do that.
More.
Every single show it resort to the same dynamic of, we're going to take these putties on. They'd fight the putties, they'd defeat the putties, then the big bad would come along, they'd beat up the big bad for a little bit, the big bad might get a little bit of an overhand on them by using their special ability, which they then overcome. The big bad's like, what am I going to do now? And then Rita, in her infinite wisdom, because having done this a million times, didn't see the flaw in the plan of just making the thing bigger, threw her staff down, made the monster a size of Angel Grove.
Now, Green Ranger, grow!
Man, it's Green Ranger! We're in trouble! We don't have enough power left to finish this fight!
And then would commence battle with the Megazords. These the Megazord comprised of 5 Zords.
Megazord sequence has been initiated! Megazord activated!
That was awesome.
These are the license to print money from Bandai Namco, in the sense that they would just toys waiting to happen. You had 5 Zords, 1 for each Power Ranger, that would then transform, not ripping off Transformers in the slightest, to form a giant mechanized suit that would basically fight for the Power Rangers who would sit in its head. Every battle would end up the same way, with the monster being destroyed, preferably by the sword or by the big gun or a new transformation that the Power Rangers would unleash. Angel Grove would usually get destroyed on a fairly regular basis. Their construction budget is probably a lot higher than most cities or indeed countries, but nevertheless at the end of each, everyone would be laughing and joking away, saying, can't believe we got out of that one. That was a real close call. Maybe we should potentially preempt it by picking on the thing first next time instead of letting it become more, but nah, okay. Haha, yeah!
Power Rangers!
But as I said, I don't want to pick on the flaws the whole review. Some of the things I liked about it. In fairness, the characters, this is back in a day when kids weren't as exposed to reality as they are now, in the sense that their role models didn't necessarily need to be these actual clean-cut baby faces. They simply portrayed them. The Power Rangers always advocated against drug use, against bullying, about tolerance and acceptance. They were multicultural and multi-diverse. Again, to present kids with this look, he's black, she's Asian, she's a girl, he's a nerd, he's a jock. They can all get together along fine, there's nothing wrong with any one of them. Again, it's probably one of the reasons why I grew up reasonably tolerant of other people. Again, this show was catered to kids for kids, so the violence is toned down. The kicks and punches aren't anywhere near as brutal as the kind of things you'd see on TV these days for the sake of realism. The colours and the explosions and stuff were exciting and they were engaging, even if you saw the same thing, reasonably speaking, over and over again, and there's still no logical reason for anything exploding behind anyone just by walking away from it. That's still the way the show rolled and the way that I liked the show. Speaking of which, the relationship Zordon had with the Power Rangers, I liked it. It was kind of a maternal relationship because you never really see the parents of the Power Rangers, making me think that they're orphans even though they're not. Which makes me again question why their parents were never questioning where they were during these citywide rampages these monsters were going on about. You'd think their parents would take better care of them. In any event, the other thing I liked about it were the Zords. Yes, they're corny as these days, but back in the day they were cool and badass. The weapons, the morphers, the suits, I wanted to be a Power Ranger. I wanted nothing more to be a Power Ranger than when I was a kid. Funny story, I remember meeting one of my dad's friends for the first time that I can remember, recognizing him in my book as Jason and going downstairs and asking him who he was. Now bear in mind, I sat on the stairs for about 10 minutes, mulling over whether or not I should ask him because it might ruin his secret identity. And yet when I had the courage to pluck up and ask him, "Excuse me, are you him?" he said,
Dr. Cox.
What? And my little soul was crushed that day. Couldn't even muster up a maybe or a, listen, I can't tell you. Wouldn't even play along for a second. Crushed my hopes and dreams. Years later, bought him a beer, told him the story, he laughed, and I laughed. It's funny how life works out sometimes. I thought the guy was Jason, I ended up buying him a beer. Kind of weird, but a fun story nevertheless, and I have Power Rangers to thank for it. I looked up to them as role models, I enjoyed the show, I thought it was funny, quirky, I was very, very young, but it doesn't change the fact that the residual memory I have of this show is one of positivity, of fun, of flamboyance, over-the-top action, and I'd watch it with a big smile on my face to this day. In preparation for this episode, I did the exact same goddamn thing. The movie is just as bad, but I love it just the same.
This summer, our world will come under attack.
The mayor has declared a state of emergency
By the most evil force ever known. He has armies at his command. And only one power on Earth can stop him.
Think! Our scares!
As a television show, I'm going to have to rate it quite harshly. It's a 5 out of 10 at best in terms of a quality of television show. If I was to show it to my daughter these days, I'd worry she'd get dumber, and she's 2. However, in terms of sheer enjoyment factor, in terms of sheer nostalgia back to the days of Goosebumps and all the rest of that jazz when kids' entertainment was probably erring on the side of too much violence and too much stimulation. Yes, it didn't spawn the greatest generation considering I can barely play games while just watching something else. Preferably I'd like 2 or 3 things going on in the background rather than focusing on just one thing. Nevertheless, I loved this show to death. And as a fan, it's an 8 out of 10 because of how goofy and how stupid it is. So you judge for yourself, go back and watch some of the episodes, some of them on YouTube, some of the best excerpts are on YouTube. Hey, it's well worth a watch if you haven't, so you can see what punks like me grew up watching and why we're the way we are. So thanks very much for watching this episode of Halcyon Blink. Please like, share and subscribe. What were some of your favourite childhood cartoons, action shows, thriller series, scary series, the old Nickelodeon age, the Cartoon Network age, Fox Kids age? What do you remember from this period and what were some of your favourite shows? Let me know in the comment section. In the meantime, check out some of the other content creators in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, and as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of Halcyon Blink. It's Morphin Power!
Dragon Sword! Mastodon!
Pterodactyl
Triceratops!
Saber-tooth tiger
Tyrannosaurus!
so stupid.